The wind outside the shuttle screamed like a dying machine as the hull shuddered under atmospheric entry. I held my breath, watching the blue haze of the alien planet flash across the viewport. My name is Elias Ward, former lieutenant of Earth's 8th Expeditionary Force, now, apparently, a guest of the Kareth Dominion, a star empire that had conquered half the Orion Spur and wasn't fond of humans. We had lost the war months ago. Our colonies burned, our fleet shattered. I was one of the last soldiers captured alive during the fall of New Thessalonica, a city once glittering with chrome and courage. Now, I was being transported to the alien capital of Verichthal, the heart of the empire that broke us. Rumor said the Empress herself had requested to see the human combatant who refused to surrender. It wasn't a compliment. The shuttle descended through layers of gold mist until a spired citadel rose into view, a city carved from obsidian and luminous metal, alive with veins of shifting light. The capital looked less like a structure and more like a god's wound upon the planet. Inside the grand palace, I was marched between guards whose armor gleamed like liquid stars. Their eyes glowed faintly, a mark of the Kareth, whose biology merged seamlessly with nanotech. They were taller than humans, their forms elegant, their presence predatory. I expected to meet an empress, an aged monarch draped in power and indifference. Instead, standing before a throne of black glass was a young woman, no older than I was. Her hair shimmered with faint luminescence, her gaze sharp enough to cut through the fear that clung to me. She was Princess Thalia of the Kareth Dominion, the only heir to the Empress. And she was staring directly at me. "Is this the human soldier?" she asked in perfect standard, her voice both curious and commanding. One of the guards nodded. Captured after single-handedly disabling a Striker-class battle tank with primitive explosives. Her eyes narrowed slightly, interest not mockery. She approached me slowly, her gaze searching, evaluating. I stood straight, refusing to bow. "You fought my people to the end," she said softly, "even when defeat was inevitable." "Because it was right," I said. "Because surrendering wasn't." The room fell silent. The guards bristled, but she raised her hand, silencing them with a gesture. Then she did something that stunned everyone in the hall. She turned toward her council and said, "This is the human I want." Gasps rippled through the chamber. I didn't know what she meant, didn't dare guess, but the weight of her words hung like a sentence and a promise both. Middle. I wasn't executed. That was the first miracle. Instead, I was confined, not in a cell, but within a palace wing. Guards followed me everywhere, though they seemed uneasy. No one explained why I was being kept alive. Days passed in silence until one evening, Princess Thalia entered my quarters without warning. She wasn't dressed as a ruler now, no ceremonial armor, no crown, just a dark robe embroidered with silver threads that shimmered like constellations. She stood by the window, looking at the alien sunset that painted the sky violet. "You confuse them," she said quietly. "My generals think I should have you executed. My mother thinks I've lost my reason." "Why didn't you?" I asked. She turned toward me. "Because I wanted to understand you." Her tone wasn't cruel. It was curious, like a scientist studying something she couldn't quite explain. She began to visit often after that. At first, our conversations were simple. Earth's history, human culture, old wars. But slowly, they deepened philosophy, morality, what it meant to be alive. She would listen, fascinated, when I spoke about humanity's flaws and hopes. And sometimes I caught her looking at me, not as an enemy, but as something else entirely. One night, she asked, "Why do humans fight when they know they cannot win?" I smiled bitterly. Because sometimes the fight itself is the victory. That answer changed something between us. From that day, she began taking me outside the palace, to the Hall of Voices, where the Kareth stored memories of their ancestors, and to the Gardens of Radiance, where trees glowed faintly with internal light. Everywhere we went, people stared, some with disgust, others with disbelief. To the Kareth, I was a curiosity. To her, I was something she couldn't yet define. But the whispers grew louder. Rumors spread through the court. The Empress would soon summon her daughter to explain her obsession with a human. And I, foolishly, began to care for her. It was madness, I knew. She was an alien princess, heir to the throne of the empire that crushed my people. Yet when she smiled, when she laughed at my sarcasm or shared her secret fears of ruling, I forgot every reason to hate her. One evening, she arrived shaken. Her mother had ordered her to prepare for an arranged bonding, a political marriage to unite the Kareth with another dominant species. She stood before me, fists clenched. They want to bind me to someone I don't even know. I looked at her, not knowing what to say. That's your duty, isn't it? Her expression hardened. And what is yours, human? To accept chains while pretending to be free. That cut deep. But before I could answer, she stepped closer, her voice trembling. Not from fear, but something deeper. When I said I wanted you, she whispered, they thought I meant as a trophy, a symbol of dominance. She looked directly into my eyes. But I chose you because you are real, because you remind me of something my people have forgotten. I swallowed hard. And what's that?
Honor, she said.
Conviction. The will to stand even when everything burns. For a moment, the universe narrowed to the space between us. Her hand brushed mine.
Warm.
Steady. Too real. Then the door slammed open. A guard entered, kneeling, terrified. Your Highness, the Empress commands your presence. At once. Her eyes flickered with dread, but she nodded and turned to me. If they take me from here, she said quietly, remember this, I did not choose wrong. She was gone before I could answer. The trial of allegiance. 2 days later, I was dragged before the Empress herself. She was nothing like her daughter. Her presence filled the throne room like gravity. Her armor shimmered with the light of a dying star, her gaze ancient and merciless. So, the Empress said, her voice echoing through the chamber, you are the human who captured my daughter's attention. I bowed slightly. If that's a crime, I didn't mean to commit it. A low murmur rippled through the council. The Empress smiled faintly, sharp, dangerous. She claims you possess something worth preserving. Yet I see only weakness, fragility. You are flesh-bound in arrogance. She sees what you can't, I replied, surprising even myself. Because she hasn't forgotten what it means to feel. A hush fell. Even the guards froze. The Empress stood. You dare speak. Your Majesty. Thalia's voice cut through the silence. She strode into the chamber in full ceremonial armor, head held high. If you wish to test the worth of a human, let him prove it. The Empress's expression shifted. You challenge the council's decree? Thalia nodded.
Yes.
Let him face the trial of allegiance. If he survives, he earns his freedom and your acknowledgement. The hall erupted in protest. The trial of allegiance was a ritual older than the empire itself, meant to test warriors of royal blood, not alien prisoners. But the Empress, perhaps out of curiosity or pride, agreed.
So be it, she said.
Let the human face the trial. And when he dies, may your fascination die with him. The trial. They brought me to an arena the size of a stadium, surrounded by towering spires and glowing runes. Above, thousands of Kareth watched in silence. Thalia stood apart, her expression unreadable. My opponent stepped forward, a praetor, one of their finest warriors, encased in armor that pulsed with kinetic energy. His weapon was a plasma halberd, mine, a crude metal staff. The trial began. The first blow nearly killed me. The halberd's energy wave hurled me across the sand, my chest burning. But I got up because surrender was not in my vocabulary. Every instinct screamed at me to give up. But I remembered Earth, the faces of my comrades, the ruins of what we'd built, and I refused to die quietly. I fought with everything I had, raw instinct, fury, defiance. When my weapon shattered, I used the fragments. When my arm broke, I used the other. When I was bleeding and half-blind, I charged headfirst into the praetor's attack and disarmed him with a move that was more desperation than strategy. And then silence. I stood over him, panting, the staff pressed to his throat. The crowd stared in disbelief. Even the Empress rose, eyes wide. Thalia whispered, barely audible, "He did it." When the Empress finally spoke, her voice was softer, but not kind. "You've proven something, human." I spat blood and met her gaze. "I didn't do it for you." She smiled faintly.
No.
"You did it for her." Ending. Days later, I awoke in my quarters, healed by alien technology, my body marked with faint scars of light where the nanites had repaired me. Thalia stood by my bedside, smiling. "You survived." I managed a grin. So did my pride. She laughed, a sound that filled the room like sunlight. Then her expression turned serious. "The Council cannot deny what happened," she said. "You are no longer a prisoner. You're a recognized combatant under the Dominion's laws. Free to leave."
Free.
After months of captivity, the word felt unreal. But as I looked at her, something inside me twisted. "I suppose this is goodbye," I said quietly. She shook her head. "Not if I have a say." Before I could answer, she reached into her robe and withdrew a medallion, a symbol of royal command. She pressed it into my palm. "My mother believes you've taught me enough about humanity," she said softly. "She's wrong. You've taught me what it means to choose." "What are you saying?" She smiled faintly, though her eyes shimmered with unspoken emotion. "I'm saying," she whispered, "that when the histories speak of this moment, they will say that the princess of the Kareth pointed at a human and said, 'This is the one I want.'" I stared at her, speechless. She leaned closer, her voice barely a breath.
"Go.
Find your people. But know this, I will find you again. Not as a princess, not as an alien, but as someone who once learned what it meant to be human." Then she turned and walked away, through the obsidian halls, through the glow of her world, leaving me with the medallion warm in my hand. When I finally stepped outside into the light of the alien sun, I realized something impossible had happened. A war had ended, but something far more dangerous had begun: understanding.